As we've mentioned already, it's important when you come to the end of the year to look ahead and determine what to expect in the coming year. Especially if you're a marketer, you want to know where you want to be spending money and what trends are really on the rise. So, we've already talked about interactive content. Now we're going to talk about search results, but in terms of voice search and how AI kind of changes the way search results are given.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen this, we saw this starting as soon as you were able to sort of talk into your device, right? And especially with things like, Alexa and Google Home and stuff like that, people do very different searches when you're doing a voice. And I really think the biggest thing we're going to see is how people handle their content strategies, because we know when you type something versus when you say something, there is a totally different context could sometimes be created out of it. But not even that, if you type something, you're going to type it in more of like, what is whatever it is, and I know one of the examples I used, I think in one of the old videos was, how much does a rhinoceros or something like that weigh, right? And you may type in how much does a rhinoceros weigh? And, for voice search, you may go, what's the weight of a rhinoceros in pounds? Like you may just ask like a very, it's a very different context of how you would put that in. And I think a lot of people spent a lot of time creating content, write an article like how much does what is the weight of a rhinoceros versus, weight of a rhinoceros in pounds. Like that's not how they targeted it. And I think as marketers and when content marketing has been such a big thing for the last decade, I think what's going to happen is people are going to really need to create different types of content. And I don't mean different, like completely, but the way it's structured.
Conversational. So like a more conversational tone and your headlines. And I think headlines are going to be important too, modifying your headlines.
Yeah. And anything, whether it even be like the URL, anything that takes part of, that sort of finding the research result is going to have to be modified or another version of it for a conversational search. And especially as AI becomes more conversational too. I mean, and we see that a lot. AI is becoming more conversational in how it's even relating to the user. Right.
So I want to share a really quick story that's related to this, because we talk about voice search, but what about emojis? And at first I was like, do I even want to talk about this? But I think it was a really cool thing my son did. So my son is 6. He can't spell alligator, right? So he's in YouTube and he wanted to find videos of alligators. And so what he did, he went to his tablet, he found the alligator emoji, put it in YouTube, and up came all of these alligator videos. And I'm sure I must have known that it could do that. But when I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, that is pretty cool. So, another thing to think about, and for where it fits, right? This is not going to fit everyone, but if you're targeting certain audiences, emojis may, fall into your content strategy too, depending on who you're trying to get in front of and how to maximize your content. Now that that, you can put emojis in your headlines. I mean, we see it in email subject lines. I mean, it's not too far off to think.
Well, what's interesting too is if you look at, you look at that and really what we're talking about is how do you modify the results for what people are searching for, right? And it's the same concept, because think about it, your son's putting that emoji in there into a search engine, which is, YouTube, right? And YouTube is going, okay, this is an alligator emoji. What are they trying to say? So basically what they're doing is they know their user, and they know there's a lot of kids on YouTube that can't spell alligator, right? So they're using those emojis, which is really cool. And once again, it's modifying it. Do you start putting, not just the word alligator in your YouTube, like if you're making YouTube videos, do you not just put alligator, but do you put the emoji in your description, right? In order for it to pop up more. And it's the same sort of concept. You're modifying your content strategy based on what users are actually searching for.